After solving the murder case of the vampire Lady Hannah Godard, our trio known as the Cage Users continue their journey to London. This time, Rindo, her maid Shizuku Hasei, and Tsugaru Shinuchi get involved in a highly anticipated heist orchestrated by the most skilled thief in the world. Starting this investigation, we start from the perspective of a man opening his eyes. By the way we see his vision dart everywhere, we can assume he's been taken against his will. This man's name is Eric, but he's better known as the famous Phantom of the Opera, and the one who took him is Arsène Lupin, a gentleman thief known for his impeccable disguises and smooth operations. Lupin needs Eric's help to pull off one of the greatest heists in London in 1899. He plans to steal the penultimate night, owned by a man named Phileas Fogg. Eric is uncertain of this job offer because London is the territory of Sherlock Holmes, the eclectic detective. But Lupin is confident they can outwit him. It turns out it doesn't take much to convince Eric because in the end, he agrees to help Lupin in his quest. Meanwhile, the said detective is in a standoff with our protagonists, Aya, Tsugaru, and Shizuku. Sherlock Holmes is ordering them to return the customer list from a cane shop. The trio has just stolen it to find a clue about the professor that they've been searching for a year. Before any fight ensues, one of the officers from Scotland Yard arrests all of them and puts them inside a prisoner transport carriage. As it happens, they're not the only ones inside the vehicle. A pair of twins sit there for an unknown crime. Aya and Sherlock have an informal deduction showdown to deduce what crime landed the twins there. They correctly guess that the twins were transporting heavy contraband porcelain art pieces. After this, they introduce themselves to each other. As usual, people who see Rindo speaking are horrified, just like the twins. But Sherlock and his companion, Dr. Watson, instantly know that she's an immortal, the only one that's living in Japan. The officer that's with them, upon hearing their names, immediately looks back at his newspaper, where it's reported that Sherlock Holmes and another detective from the East were commissioned by Phileas Fogg to guard his treasure. At once, he understands that these are the detectives mentioned in the article, and that they must proceed to Fogg's mansion instead of the prison. Upon arriving there, a few civilians are standing outside the mansion's gate, and numerous guards are already stationed inside. One of the civilians is Eric, who sees the arrival of the famous detectives who'll be watching out for them. He returns to Lupin to report this development. In the mansion, the detectives are welcomed by the butler named Passepartout. Inspector Lestrade of Scotland Yard is also there. Right away, they are given the general layout of the mansion. Then they are led to another room to meet the man of the house. Phileas Fogg is an adventurer who went around the world with his butler years ago. He bought the mansion to house all the treasures he had collected during his journey, including his most prized possession, the penultimate night. And then, days ago, he received a letter from Arsène Lupin, telling him that the gentleman thief will be stealing the gem along with its case on the night of January 19th, between 11 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. Because of this threat, Phileas enlisted the help of 101 guards, plus the expertise of Sherlock Holmes and Rindo. With him and his butler, there are 108 in total who will be watching over the gem. Then there will be 3 more joining them. One is a detective from the Paris Police Department. The other 2 will be from Royce's Advisory Security Department, namely Reinhold Stinghart and Fatima Double Darts. Royce's is a unique insurance company that's been in business for over 200 years. According to Lupin, they prioritize the hunting of monsters as much as protecting their clients' insured treasures. There are 7 total members, all of them wearing white with a code name and agent number that corresponds to their strengths and are formidable enemies of monsters. Aya warns Tsugaru to be careful of them. After this little introduction, Phileas leads them all underground to the room of residual sins where the gem is kept. The door of the room is massive, with intricate embossed designs, of which some parts serve as the locks. There are 3 total locks on the door, and it can only be opened with the force of 4 men. Inside is a spacious circular room with high ceilings. In the middle is a throne where the box that contains the gem sits. Phileas shows them all how to open the box, which looks complicated. Then he brings out a cloth to hold the gem. The penultimate night is an 80-carat black diamond that's made up of carbon and europium, but the gem is not the only valuable thing in the room. The box that contains it is made from pure silver, making sure that no werewolves and vampires can touch it. Aya asks Phileas about how he came about the treasure. Phileas says he got it 20 years ago from a German friend who excavated it from a 14th century archaeological site. Phileas received it as a closed box, not knowing what was inside. It took him 10 years just to figure out how to unlock it. Once he did, he saw the gem and discovered that some words were engraved on it. Aya translates the words. The dawn is red as blood. The dusk is purple as the corpse. When the moon shines, please do not gaze at my ugliness because I harbour a wolf inside of me. Passepartout adds that there's a German legend about a tribe of dwarves that was destroyed by a tribe of werewolves. To avenge their annihilation, the remaining dwarves carved a gem that will point to the location of their destroyers, and they made its container dangerous for their enemies. Sherlock finally understands why Lupin is after the priceless gem. While he's studying the layout of the room, Aya is busy studying every aspect of this investigation. The room, the gem and its box, and all the people involved. In the end, Aya is confident there's a way to stop the thief from getting what he wants. But she also understands that her idea may be stupid. She gives Tsugaru a hint, Ishikawa Goemon, an infamous Japanese outlaw. The next afternoon, the trio takes a rest at a nearby park. It's the day of the supposed theft, and they decide to take a break before getting into action. Another birdcage covered in cloth sits on a bench next to them, its owner buying fish and chips from a nearby stall. Tsugaru also buys some snacks, leaving Aya and Shizuku. Aya tells her maid that she wants to see a famous exhibit of wax sculptures, so Shizuku leaves to check the availability of the said exhibit. Although it's not shown on screen, Tsugaru gets confused about which birdcage contains Aya's head. Understandably, he gets the wrong one. He and Shizuku only find out when they're on their way to Fogg's mansion. The parrot inside the cage croaks its learned words, startling Tsugaru, Shizuku, and other passers-by. This mishap earns Tsugaru a black eye from the maid. So where is Aya? As predicted, the old man mistook her cage for his, and clearly he gets shocked to find a severed head inside instead of his pet bird. Because of this, he throws the cage away, flinging open its door and tossing Aya onto the road. Unfortunately, a carriage drives by, splitting Aya's head into 2 bloody parts. But she's immortal, so she won't easily pass away. Although it's eerie to witness how she can put herself back together. To her distaste, the drivers of the carriage who run over her are the twins from yesterday. With evil grins, the twins capture Aya with the intent of selling her to the circus. While all this is happening, Dr. Watson goes to Baker Street to talk with Sherlock about their strategy for that night. To his surprise, Mycroft Holmes walks in and accuses his supposed brother of disguising himself. And it turns out it's true, because the real Sherlock Holmes walks in after his older brother. His disguise now useless, Arsène Lupin pulls off his mask and greets the men amiably. Then he stands up and shows off his skills by unlocking a trinket box using a pin. He wants them to know that he's aware of the locks on the room where the treasure is, as well as the layout of the mansion. As for the silver box itself, Lupin is confident he can figure it out much shorter than Phileas did. All in all, he's showing Sherlock that his heist will be a success. With that, he jumps off the window, only to land on a carriage driven by Eric. Mycroft reflects on what happened and warns his brother to not underestimate the enemy. He reminds Sherlock that he should also look out for the representatives from Royce's insurance company. In the event that Lupin successfully steals the gem, the agents will go after him and take the gem forcefully for themselves. Knowing that these agents are prejudiced against monsters, Sherlock understands that they can decode the text on the gem and locate the werewolves to finish them. He takes note of this, but he's confident enough that he and the others can stop the heist now that he knows Lupin's moves. Meanwhile, Lupin and Eric continue driving when they almost hit a wandering maid. This maid is Shizuku, who's desperately looking for her mistress's birdcage. Lupin offers to help the maid find the birdcage. As they pass an intersection, another carriage speeds past them. Shizuku sees her mistress in the back seat of that vehicle, so she takes the wheel from Eric and drives after the perpetrators. In another location, Tsugaru sees the empty birdcage. Then a carriage speeds past him and he hears Aya scream his name. He follows this vehicle through the roofs. Eventually he jumps onto it, making it crash on the sidewalk. He also ensures Aya is safe back in her cage. Shizuku runs to them and is relieved to know her mistress is safe. Then she tells her that 2 gentlemen helped in searching for her. Aya instinctively knows that these men are Lupin and the so-called Phantom of the Opera. Tsugaru gets the hint and taunts Lupin. A short fight ensues, in which Lupin gets the upper hand and knocks Tsugaru to the ground. Before leaving, Lupin warns Aya to stay away from his heist. Once they leave, Tsugaru drops the pretense of being defeated. It looks like he only taunted Lupin into a fight so Aya can observe how he moves, and with that they proceed to Fogg's mansion. They decide to station themselves on the top of one of the towers, leaving Sherlock and the rest in the room where the gem is kept. Except for the Royce agents who chose to stay on the upper floors, everyone is inside the room of residual sins. And with a signal from Inspector Lestrade, the guards lock them there. Everybody is tense as they wait for the appointed time. Less than an hour before 11 p.m, they receive a report about the stolen uniforms of the security guards. Thinking that Lupin may try to break in through the door using those uniforms, Sherlock decides to shoot the 3 keyholes. With that, they are now fully locked inside, but none of them expects Lupin's real plan. At 11 p.m. sharp, they all feel rumbling from the outside. Without ado, a strong stream of water flows through the small vent from above. Phileas realizes that one of the towers was blown up, making a hole in the moat where water can flow toward them. Sherlock realizes he's fallen for Lupin's trap. They may have secured the gem inside the room, but they're ill-equipped to secure it underwater. As the room fills with water, one can only anticipate if the gentleman thief will be successful in this heist. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.